I'm Greg Hunter. Welcome to USAWatchdog.com. The gold and silver markets are going crazy under extreme pressure. There's no magic mystery in my mind that you'd want physical hard assets if we were going into a money printing hailstorm that they have announced, and it's being done globally. And yet the price of silver and gold is getting whacked. Last week on Friday, silver was down over $1, gold was down $50, and I guess they're trying to scare people off for real assets, even though gold is up year over year about $200. You can't say that about the NASDAQ or the Dow or the Russell or any other stock market. And here to talk about what the wackadoodle craziness they're doing in the physical gold and silver market, I have Bill Murphy, the chairman of GATA, the Gold Antitrust Action Committee. He also runs La Metropole Cafe, the website, lametropolecafe.com. Bill Murphy, thank you for joining us today on USA Watchdog.
Greg, thanks for having me. What a time this is.
Well, I was looking on, and I know you know all about this, so you're the perfect guy for this. And, I've been lamenting the fact that, gold was in the high 90s, at 90 ounces, 96, 7 ounces of silver can buy 1 ounce of gold. Now that's gone in record territory. You were telling me in the pre-interview. I mean, you don't have to be much of a math whiz to say, silver at 14 and change, and gold at 15 and change. 100 times 14 and change, and wow, it's more than 100 ounces of silver to equal 1 ounce of gold. What in the heck is going on?
Well, it reached 105 to 1 on Friday, Greg, and it's quite something. J.P. Morgan,
is that a record?
Yes, and J.P. Morgan was called a criminal enterprise by our own Justice Department. They've engineered the silver price down, and so they can get out of their short positions, and it's quite something to see. And for what's going on the COMEX, they have all the long and short positions, and recently it was at a record high position of 245,000 contracts. Now it's gone to less than 180,000 contracts. They're flushing all the people out so they can cover their own shorts before we have an epic move in silver to the upside, which is coming sure as shooting.
What's the time frame of this? Time frame of the
well, that's so. It's very difficult. All I can say is right now they're panicking speculators out of the gold and silver paper market so they can cover their massive short positions in each market. And it's absolutely staggering what's going on the past couple of days in terms of what they're doing. And they've created a panic in the paper market. It's not happening in the physical market. The silver, the mint just stopped selling silver eagles because they ran out. My friend Dave from Denver reported in his area that there's now a $4 premium for silver eagles. It hasn't been that way in 10 years.
Wow. So what's going on? So you have a mismatch of what's going on. People are looking at this price decline in the physical market going, I'll have me a monster box right now for less than 10,000. That's what they're doing right now. People are walking into a coin store and like they have 10 ounces of silver right now. That's what they're doing.
Yes, and what's happening, and people don't understand, is what God has been doing and run so ably by my colleague Chris Powell, who's Secretary Treasurer, is that we were trying to expose what this gold cartel is doing. The bullion banks, the Fed, the Treasury, the Bank for International Settlements, what they've done to suppress the price. So what has happened after all these years, this gold cartel, as I call it, has run out of enough physical gold to do what they've done. And they're lost. They're blown up, really. They can act in the paper market. But since May, gold has made one high after another, and every dip has been bought. That's because they don't have enough physical gold to carry out what they've done for so many years. So now they're trying to get out of their paper positions before the gold and silver markets go to the moon.
Well, aren't they fighting their own central banks who have been buying gold like crazy since about 2011? Haven't the biggest buyers of gold been global central bankers and big bankers?
Great point. Yes, and that's what's wiping out what I call the gold cartel.
They're wiping themselves. Wait.
To carry.
Hold on a minute. They're wiping themselves out, basically. The greed is, You got a bunch of
Yes.
greedy, evil people, and they're all, there's no honor among a bunch of thieves. So they're wiping. So the gold cartel is wiping itself out. Will you explain that?
Yes, well, they suppressed the gold and silver prices year after year. They've managed it going up and down, whatever. But what they've been able, they're running out of physical gold to carry on because the demand for physical has been so strong. So now they're finally making their final effort to get out of the paper market, which they've been so short on, before the gold and silver prices go to the moon. And I think, it's imminent. I mean, what's going on in terms of money printing, debt, deficits after this horrible situation the world's facing because of the coronavirus? They're panicking to get out. And to do that, they're panicking speculators to get out of the gold and silver markets in the paper market and collapsing the prices. And it's extraordinary.
If another thing that you brought up in the pre-interview was this exchange for physical. People like Bill Holter, who's a great guy, who has talked about this, that they got just massive amounts of orders to exchange for physical, and they can't fill them. Is that part of what's blown up with the cartel? You were telling me that it's tens of millions of ounces that people are want delivery on, and they can't deliver them at the LBMA. Will you explain that for us?
Well, it's actually on the COMEX. It's a exchange for physical, simply exchange a futures contract for delivery. And yesterday, just the other day, they did 36,000 contracts. I mean, and nobody can explain exactly what's transpiring, but they're using some sort of behind-the-scenes activity to deflect what they don't have in the physical market anymore. And it's gone completely out of control. And this is another example of how close we are getting to the gold market blowing up. I mean, I'm talking about $100 up days become common.
When you say blowing up, you mean blowing up and blowing up continually, sequentially, day after day.
Yeah, until it reaches a certain point, because there won't be any physical gold to meet the demand, which is going to go bonkers all over the world. They can't stop it. So now it's, again, I repeat myself, this is the panic to get the papers to cover their short positions by flushing out the speculators, because there's a panic in assets all over the world right now.
Do you think this is part of this we've talked about? I mean, the IMF has talked about this. Christine Lagarde has talked about this. Many different people have talked about and used the term a reset, a global reset. What it really is a debt reset, because they can't pay it. We're not paying this debt off globally. We're up at 250, which I think is a lie. $300 trillion in global debt is probably more like it. Then the derivatives behind it. None of this stuff is going to perform. We're never paying this back. We're not paying back the 23 trillion plus the 21 missing money in the U.S. government. We're not paying it back. We're not paying it back, folks. Folks, we're not paying it back. We're not going to grow our way out of it. So is this part of the global reset? And if so, explain.
Well, it's a good point. I mean, there's a lot of people in our camp been calling for a reset for some time, meaning the gold price will be set at some price, 3,000, 5,000, pick a number, it doesn't matter. As you said, they can't pay all the debt and back, and now they're going to print more zillions of dollars. So something has to be done. All I know is, from my standpoint, is the gold price is going to go ballistic as all this plays out in the weeks and months ahead. And my effort is to explain what's going on in the gold and silver market so people don't panic. I mean, what they've done to the shares, this gold cartel, as I call it, is mind-boggling. They've completely collapsed this past week. That's all going to change. And for the people that can hang in there, absolute mega fortunes will be made.
And silver, why are they hitting silver so hard? Why hit it so hard? If JP Morgan has supposedly millions and millions of ounces of silver, why are they crashing the silver price?
Well, it's a good question, because silver was linked with gold because you couldn't have one go the other way, one do the other. And as I mentioned earlier, they've run out of enough physical gold to do what they've done, to carry on more than a few days, so they're blowing up. Physical silver at the very moment they're still in the hands of the JP Morgan crowd getting the price down. Again, they want to cover. What's going to happen, in my opinion, is that the gold price is going to go ballistic. As JP Morgan gets their position covered, everyone's going to want to buy silver because it's the cheapest asset in the world. Gold's going to be too expensive for people. Everyone's going to want to buy cheap silver. The silver price, when it changes, will go absolutely bonkers like no other market in history, because the supply of silver that's out there right now will completely dry up overnight, or at least in a week or two. There won't be anything for sale. And especially for not only investors, but people that are used to getting cheap silver supply will all go after secure it at the same time.
And do you have an idea of how this reset will work? I mean, what Bill Holter said and other people, and I agree with them, saying, they'll come on, the TV some Sunday night and say, hey, we're going to close the banks tomorrow. Don't worry. That's when you should worry. Well, how do you think this reset's going to happen? And then they just do one grand reset, or they're going to do it in a couple of stages, or what do you think is going to happen, Bill?
Well, Bill's a smart guy. I mean, I'll go with what he has to say. It's going to happen at some Sunday night out of nowhere, and it will be done, and it's going to be quite something. The reset is not my thing in terms of, do I think it's coming? Most likely. What I know is going to happen is the gold and silver prices have to go nuts to the upside because of everything that's gone on, not just recently, but in past years. And now you've got the black swan issues between the oil situation and the coronavirus, and I don't know, the United States just shutting down, that everyone's going to want to own gold and silver, and the bad guys can't stop it anymore.
Ooh, that's good. The bad guys can't stop it anymore. And this thing with the repo market, I mean, people miss this fact because, financial TV, they're a bunch of liars and hucksters and shucksters. I mean, I have Charles Denner on. He says, well, I don't think they know any better. Well, then they shouldn't be on financial TV, right? I mean, I have a general studies degree, and I know what they're doing, right? I'm not a big financial expert, but I know they took over the repo market, which is, a first, and they're pumping out $60 billion a month, and this was going on back since the middle of September. So we had major trouble working before this 19 number came in with from the the red Chinese. We had major problems, right?
Absolutely. And the one thing you'll never hear is the truth from the financial media. I mean, we talk about the Chinese press. You have to be kidding me. My colleague Chris Powell does an incredible job sending all the evidence that GATA has about what's going on in the gold market, the suppression. They refuse to print it and even mention our name. It's that bad. And of course, it's all going to change down the road when, as I call it, the gold and silver markets blow up. But you can't get the truth from the financial media. Not what's really going on. They won't go there.
And you guys, you and Chris Powell's a nice fellow. I've had him on as a guest. He's a smart guy. You guys have proven beyond, I mean, when you first started the Gold Antitrust Action Committee, GATA, they laughed and snickered and they're tinfoil hats and you guys are nuts. And then, the indictments for rigging the Forex market and the gold and silver market, and Deutsche Bank was a big part of that. And all that, that is, then all that just became a backup to what you've been saying all along. You've proven that they've manipulated the markets beyond any shadow of doubt, correct?
Absolutely. I mean, it's 100% that way, and anybody has an open mind can appreciate that. And if I may, it's the most important thing to understand about the markets, because the gold and silver prices right now are artificially too low because of these people. This is what's going to cause the biggest move in history. It's now coming down to the short strokes, and it's been a long time for us doing this, and I can't wait for it to happen. And then eventually, when they do blow up, then the press is going to have to deal with what happened, and our story will be told. But our story getting told isn't as important as getting the truth out to the people so they can take advantage of what's going on.
Well, and not just to make money, protect themselves. I mean, if somebody poor can go out and buy themselves 10 ounces of silver right now while it's cheap, that might come in handy if it goes to 150 or 200 or 300 or whatever it goes to. Some people say it'll go to $500 or $600 an ounce eventually. It's going to be so valuable that it's going to be actually on a percentage basis go way higher than gold, right?
Absolutely. I mean, you can pick what's the normal ratio of a fair ratio or historic 40 to 1. It's 105 to 1. Silver's going to, like I said, it's got to get above $21 an ounce, which it will. When it does that, it'll just skyrocket.
And the things that you're hearing in the background with the gold and silver market, I mean, you're kind of pretty well connected. Are the strong hands selling? Or are they like buying?
No, the strong hands are buying, and again, all you've got is the bullion banks intimidating spec longs because assets are being sold all over. I mean, this just happened in really the end of the week in terms of gold. I mean, I don't know it was Wednesday. I was watching the markets Wednesday night around 11 o'clock. Gold was at 1640, and they just raided it. It went straight down, and this is what they do. And then they create a panic, and the panic has been ongoing, and that's all going to change. It's just, if I might mention, the opposite's true in the stock market. On Thursday night, the Dow was in the tank, and it rallied when nobody was around 1,000 points. It was the plunge protection team. And I think I don't mind bringing that up because Steve Mnuchin, in December of 1918, Christmas Eve, publicly called in the plunge protection team, and the market went bonkers a couple of days later to the upside. And they're in there all the time doing what they can to keep the stock market from falling apart.
And then they are also in there all the time trying to suppress the price of real money, right?
Absolutely.
So on one side, you got them doing this. On the other side, you got them doing that, right? I mean,
yeah, that's exactly right. So, but it's all, this is so bad now that it's not going to end well. And then again, I said it enough, but people, boy, if you own gold and silver, you're going to be a happy camper by the end of this year.
Oh, you think the big move happens before the end of this year?
No. I think it's going to start in weeks ahead. But I mean, by the end of the year, who knows what could happen?
So you think that they're going to get out of all their shorts, and they're going to do everything they can to beat up the markets, get out of all their shorts, and at that point, they're going to ricochet it back up to the upside.
Yeah, they're going to have to let it go. Now, I can't say they'll get out of all their shorts, but they're getting out as much as they can every day now in panic mode. And I know, for example, when silver went to 50 in 2011, the open interest on COMEX was 135,000 contracts. Now it's 180,000, down from 245,000. The bad guys, as I call them, the JP Morgan crowd, just let the open interest never went up all the way to 50. They just watched it, let it go up, let it go up. This will be different, and the fact is, because 50 will be cheap, they're just going to have to stand aside and stop playing the game they have for so many years.
Wow, that's a pretty important point. 50 will be cheap.
Yes.
I'm writing down a little note here for me. And you know, the other thing about what people don't really concentrate on about, and I know I've been reporting on this for months, and telling people you're in a Ponzi, you're in a rigged game. They're not putting money towards stuff that is, to cure cancer, or to, we're going to do a mining operation on asteroids, and we're going to find stuff that isn't even on the periodic table, and we're going to mine gold. We're going to send somebody to Mars. They're not, we're going to cure Alzheimer's. No. No, they are propping up a necrotic system with this money, right? I mean, they're all they can do to prop up a dead system. Am I wrong? Please explain if I am.
No, you're so right. I wanted to be a sycophant here, but you got it exactly right. And what's happened is they've done it year after year after year, and now they've hit the wall. They've hit the wall with Black Swan. Some of us thought a Black Swan would do this, and it has. But it's a horrible Black Swan. It's the Black Plague, and it's changing American history. I mean, American way of life for a long time to come here.
Bill Murphy, you have Le Metropole Cafe. That's what you do, along with you're the chairman of GATA, and you and Chris Powell run that. You guys have done. You're going to be. You've already been completely vindicated, but then the mainstream press is going to have to come on and say, "Well, nobody saw this coming." I love it when they said that back in '08. Nobody saw this coming. And I was doing stories on CNN saying this is getting bad, and they're printing tons of money, and the market's going to tank, and so is the housing market. And for that, I got a pink slip.
Yeah, that's the way it goes.
Tell me about La Metropole Cafe.
Oh, I started in 1998, been writing about the gold, silver markets, and my subscriber, Chris Powell, the editor of a newspaper at the time, said, will you stop complaining about this manipulation? Let's do something about it. So we both formed the Gold Antitrust Action Committee in January of 1999, and we've been at it ever since, trying to expose what the bad guys, as I call them, been doing. So we do that, and then I'm chairman of GATA, but Chris does all the work as secretary treasurer, and I love the guy, and we're going to keep it at it till we win the day.
And you think that winning the day is close? You think that they're just about, they're click, 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 click with their six shooters, right? You think that the day, that the whole thing's going to end soon?
Ticking time bombs, like you said, tick, 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 tick. Yeah.
Or click, 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 no bullets.
Or click, 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 whatever you want to, way you want to describe it. It's that's what's happening.
You think it's soon? This is like years or months. This is weeks.
No. This is weeks. You know, I don't know. It's hard to predict, as you well know, but weeks to months max.
Okay. All right. La Metropole Cafe. That link will be up there for you. You can read all your stuff. You want to get boned up on that, on what you're writing about. I know you that's been around for a long time. I was at CNN. I read La Metropole Cafe back in the early 2000s, right? Or that was,
yeah.
I was at ABC News back then, and then later on I was at CNN. But anyway, now USA Watchdog, which is way better than that because we tell the truth and we get it right. We don't lie, and we have great guests on like you. Bill Murphy. Thank you very much for joining us today on USAWatchdog.com.
Thank you, Greg.
Oh, one last thing. Any other thing that you want to tell people? What message? I know this is like a double false negative, false out, but what message would you like to leave people? Because when I called you, said, boy, I just want to get this message out. What's the final message that people should take with them right now about the gold and silver market? Buy
physical gold and silver and prepare to take advantage of what's coming, and take advantage of what this gold cartel has done by getting the prices down to where they are. And it's all of a sudden the supply is going to dry up, and it's better to buy it now while you can.
All right. Now, this is the real out. Bill Murphy, thank you for joining us today on USAWatchdog.com.
Thanks again, Greg.